Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Is with great pleasure, and it gives me really a tremendous amount of honor to get to introduce our two speakers this morning. These guys have been very powerful in my recovery, and it's my sponsor and sponsor. I can't tell you how much this means to me. To get introduced these people, they're outstanding members of Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon, and so I'm just, Cindy from Helodes, Texas, come up here.
I love that, man. Hey, everybody, my name is Cindy Scott, and I'm a grateful member of Al-Anon since January 1st of 1983.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the invitation to come and be with you here this weekend. Thank you for the weather, the sun's shining, and it's so pretty out there. And it's just, the fellowship has been great. Thank you, Laura, for the invitation to come and be here. Both my husband and I have been through the ravages of alcoholism, and it's really nice to be able to share together in recovery. And you know, I just want to take a moment and thank Alcoholics Anonymous for the man that they gave back to me. And you know, we've got a lot of people in our life today that support our relationship and what we do here. And if it wasn't for you folks in Al-Anon and AA, I know that we would not be together today. And so thank you for all of that. You know, there's a part in the big book in the foreword to the second edition that said that public acceptance of AA increased because of the large amount of recoveries and reunited homes. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon has done for us. When I read that, I can put myself in those pages. Because I'm going to tell you something, alcoholism is a family disease. And there's no one that knows that better than me. I lived through alcoholism. You know, I grew up in it, but I didn't know. I do not call myself a child of an alcoholic because basically it was just my family. And I had a stepdad, and he drank. He drank a lot, and when he drank, he got very violent, and he beat my mother, and we had cops at the house, and, you know, I didn't bring friends home, and all of those things, they go with the family disease of alcoholism. And it wasn't anything that happened just to me. In fact, is today, something that my sponsor says every time we get together for a weekend, she reminds us as we're sitting there on the floor and we're getting really, you know, ready for a weekend to take a look again at the principles of recovery through the 12 steps. Now, that's something that is ongoing for me. And as we look at that, she reminds all of us. She said, somewhere within this block, within just the radiance of this block, there is some woman with a black eye. There are children that are hid out in their room. Because what we have is, we have alcoholism today. I don't believe that it has decreased because of AA and Al-Anon, which is really sad. It would be nice if we could have an inoculation and wipe it out, but that does not happen. And so what we get to do is we get to carry the message. We carry the message of recovery. In our opening in Al-Anon, it says that there can be happiness whether the alcoholic is drinking or not. And so we get to share a message and, just saying, come sit here, be with us. Just come sit in these rooms and feel the safety, feel the peace. We have a place to offer people who suffer from this disease to go. And I just want to say real quickly, because since I've been here this weekend, I got to sit in the last 2 meetings in this room. And Hilda, thank you so much for your message, because it was people like you. And John, thank you for your message of recovery. Thank you for sharing your lives, not just what it was like, but how you got to recovery. Because when you talked about the program of recovery, I identified those principles in there, the principle of surrender, the principle of asking for help, the principle of taking direction. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know about alcoholics, but I do know about me and my Al-Anonisms. And that is that I don't ask for help. And I don't take direction very well. I don't do any of those things. So you see, the same principles that work for an alcoholic work for people like me. Because what I am is I am a control, it was read this morning, thank you, about the obsession, the alcoholic. And I got to share something with you. It just made me giggle. I was in a open AA meeting last Saturday, sorry. See, I still don't remember too well, but in fact that's really sad, because an Al-Anon always has the characteristic of I never forget. Now, I don't know if my forgetting is coming about because of I'm getting older or simply because I'm getting more recovered. I'm not sure. But nonetheless, I was sitting in this meeting, and I had been told by another alcoholic that there's a guy here, and he's newly sober, and he brought his wife. So, this is what we do. We try to reach out, and we try to greet and welcome newcomers. That's what I've been taught to do. So I went in there, and I spotted her. They kind of pointed her out, and I spotted her, went over and sat down next to her. And I started visiting with her, and, a little chit-chat and this and that. And I noticed as she was talking to me, she was very distracted because she was keeping one eye on him next to her, and then the other, she was trying to pay attention to what my questions that I was asking her. Well, pretty quick, he gets up and he disappears. And so her and I are talking, and again, she's still got that distracted look in her eye, and then he appears again, he sits back down next to her. And I look at her, and she just totally turns away from me like I'm not even there. And she says, excuse me, but is that your second or your third cup of coffee? And I just had to laugh, because that is, if I'm not counting drinks anymore, I'm doing something else. I am still in your life. I am still trying to control you, what you do, where you go, how you do it. That's just who and what I am. And my surrender came for me when I accepted who and what I was. It was not an alcoholic that made my life miserable. It was me trying to fix everything. I had my marriage planned out. This is something that I can't change, so I just have to tell you, and that is that I met him when I was 13 years old. I'm 13 years old, and I am planning on what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a man. He's going to have a good job, and we're going to have 2 children, a boy and a girl, and we're going to have a dog and a cat, and the white picket fence around the yard. It's silly. I don't know where those ideas come from. I didn't grow up that way, but somehow I knew that there was something better. So really, the truth of the matter is I went out and sought someone to fill those shoes. And an alcoholic is wonderful for a person like me because they need me. What does alcoholism, the family disease, look like? Well, for me, it looks like low self-esteem. And that means that I need somebody to fill me up. I will suck the life out of you so that I can feel better. And in the meantime, I am making you feel guilty because, well, here's what alcoholism looks like too. The family disease of alcoholism looks like this. You don't love me. Because if you love me, you wouldn't leave. You wouldn't go tonight. Well, you know what I was doing in sobriety? It used to be don't go to the bar. In sobriety is don't go to that meeting. If you love me, you would stay here. Now that you're sober, I need you to make my life better. See, I don't understand. I don't understand the family disease of alcoholism. And that's why I'm grateful for a sponsor who later down the road, because I did not go and jump into recovery, but later down the road, I got a sponsor who said, you will go to an open A meeting a week. And that's where, I'm going to tell you something, that's where my healing came from. My healing came from listening to other recovering alcoholics and finding out that he didn't mean to hurt me. He didn't mean to do the things that just devastated me, but he had a disease, and it's a real disease, and it's a disease that will kill him. I did not know that. I thought he was just a bad boy. He won't mind. You know, it's like, oh, for crying out loud. Later on, when we had a couple kids, it's like I didn't just have 2 kids, I had 3 kids, and he was one. And that's what it felt like to me. Because that, again, you know, you have to understand, Al-Anon-ism, there's a thing called alcoholism, well, we have Al-Anon-isms. And that's my disease. And I go to Al-Anon meetings so that I can recover from my Al-Anon-isms, from my trying to control other people, places, and things. And, you know, I did the things that we do. I had children because I thought it would fix alcoholism. And all I did was bring those kids into a home just like where I came from. The home that I said I would never live like that. I'm gonna be different. But what happened is I was just repeating the same thing. I found out that my mom somehow picked alcoholics. And lo and behold, I picked alcoholics. And later on down the road, my daughter picked an alcoholic. You know, it goes on and on and on. The good thing about what happened with my daughter is because of Alcoholics Anonymous, because of the fact that when we began to join the fellowship, and he went to AA, and he was working with the sponsor and getting sober, and I very resentfully went to Al-Anon. Not that I needed help, but they wouldn't let me go to AA. You know, I couldn't keep an eye. You kept telling me over there in that room, you kept saying, there is a room over there for you. And I did not want to go because there was nothing wrong with me, number one, and number two, because how am I going to keep an eye on him? I mean, I remember the early days. It's like I'd go to those open meetings. That's before I had to. I went because I wanted to keep an eye on him in the beginning. And I was listening to them read the steps, and I looked at him on the wall, and I thought, okay, well, he's probably done 1 and 2, but 3? I need to work on him a little bit on 3. I think he needs some help with that one. You know, my focus was just, as we read in that opening, my focus was so much on him that I could not see that I had a problem or a part in alcoholism. And, you know, I've gone to Al-Anon meetings. In fact, it's down where I'm from. I'm from Montana, really, and then we moved to Texas 2 years ago, and so I've had to find me a new group, and it's a little different down there in Texas, but that's okay because, you know, I have a message of recovery, and it's the message that is my experience, strength, and hope. So I carry that with me, and it's kind of funny because, well, just in the last, when were you down there, John?
Last winter.
February, wasn't it? Yeah. In February, from February till now, it looks like, I guess I've already lost 7 sponsees. There's something about all them meetings. They just don't want to go to those meetings. And yet it doesn't matter because it's what I do. I have to do that. That's my recovery, so I just do it. And they get so excited by the message. It's like, oh, will you sponsor me? And then you say yes, and this is are you willing to make a commitment to your program? And you tell them what, the meetings. Oh, yes. And then later, somehow it just kind of loses its, it's like, oh, again, tonight? But, well, I had one girl say, well, my son's getting married. I don't have time for this stuff. It's like, okay. But it's just so easy. I mean, I've been at this for many, many years, and it's so easy to get bored, I believe, unless you're working with new people. Because it's like I work with new people for me. I don't do it for them. I do it for me because I got to stay grounded. I got to stay in the middle of this because this is what makes my life better. And this up here can take me out. This can say, you know what, you've been doing this for so long, you don't need to do it that way anymore. It's okay. You know it. And I like Bill's story because Bill's story in the big book talks about how he knew, and now he was going to stay sober, and it didn't work for him. And, I sit in Al-Anon meetings all the time, and I see people come in and go back. They come in, and then they go out. Then they come in, and they go out. It's like nothing changes. We don't change. What we have to do is we have to continue to treat this spiritual illness, this spiritual illness of family disease. And anyway, what I was saying, and I got distracted there or sidetracked, in the meetings in Al-Anon, what they say is they say, we're welcoming these newcomers and we're telling them about the 3 C's. Now, if you've been to an Al-Anon meeting, you know what the 3 C's are. The 3 C's is I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I cannot cure it.
To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
So there. But in our literature, and nobody seems to remember the 4th C, in our literature it says, but I did contribute to it. I need to find out what I contributed to alcoholism if I want recovery. If I want to feel better, nothing an alcoholic can ever say to me is going to make that hole inside of me feel complete.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
No hurt that was ever done to me can an alcoholic say words or even do actions that's going to make that heal up. Nobody else is going to do that. That is going to have to come from a power greater than me. That's going to have to come from a God of my understanding. And that, to me, is what the 12 steps do, which is great news. That's what it means when it says whether the alcoholic is drinking or not, you can still find happiness. That's what it means. My happiness is not dependent upon you. So these are all great and wonderful things. They're gifts that I received from going to Al-Anon and from getting involved. I'm very, very strong on sponsorship because I guess for 5 years I tried to do Al-Anon by myself. And you know something? You can read it, you can listen to other people talk about it, but there's something of humility that happens when you reach out and you ask for help. And you listen to another human being give you their experience, strength, and hope, and then you begin together to walk that path. There's something that happens there. Where there's humility, there's God. And so I began to walk that path. Finally, after 5 years of just white knuckling it, and I even worked with others. I listened in AA meetings, and they said, well, when all else fails, work with another alcoholic. Well, of course, we can't work with alcoholics, but I can work with families of alcoholics. And so I was sponsoring all kinds of people, and I did not have a sponsor. Now imagine that. But I had my books, and I would go. He was part of this. The phone would ring, and I would. We didn't have caller ID then, so I would answer the phone, and oh, it's Mary. Oh, not Mary again. Mary's my whiner. Mary always has stuff. So I go and grab a Al-Anon book, and I open it up, and I'm looking for Mary's answer. I'm not sharing experience, strength, and hope. I'm sharing solution that comes out of the books. I'm sharing knowledge. But it's not the same, because there's a language of the heart that connects us. And without that language of the heart, I can pay a therapist. I can go to a therapist and say, here it is. And, I was thinking about that. I mean, therapists they're very helpful, and sometimes we have issues that don't belong in Al-Anon, and so sometimes therapy is necessary. But it's not combined. And in some Al-Anon meetings I go and I hear people talk about their therapist and their sponsor in the same sentence. It's like, excuse me? Therapy is not part of Al-Anon. It's not in our literature anywhere. And if you want therapy, or, go get a therapist. But if you want recovery from the family disease of alcoholism, then get a sponsor and work the 12 steps. Because that's where our recovery is. Alcoholics Anonymous gave us those 12 steps. And if the power of those 12 steps can get an alcoholic sober, can you imagine what it can do for someone like me? That's the way that I view that. There is power in those 12 steps. And today it is my experience. I did not know that it was going to begin with our marriage. And I'm going to tell you something. They did not tell us to work on our relationship. Because when we came into this fellowship, when he got sober, I didn't like him, not even one little bit. And he didn't like me either. And I think we were just staying together out of spite. It's like I wasn't going to let him win, and he wasn't going to let me win. So we just were together. And he'd go to those meetings, and he'd leave his big book on the table, and I'd walk way around that table. I didn't want anything to do with him or his program. And for whatever reason, he went to a group that really believed in helping the family too. And they had a meeting on Saturday night. It was an open meeting, and they always had cake and ice cream. I tell you, that cake and ice cream stuff will put pounds on you. And they love their ice cream. Did you know that? Coffee and ice cream. You cannot have a convention without coffee and ice cream. It's like, that's an AA thing. And anyway, they would have these open meetings, and his sponsor kept saying, well, why don't you invite her to the Saturday night meeting? He says, oh, I don't think so. She don't want to go nowhere with me. And he was right. But for whatever reason, he continued to ask me it was not pushy. It was just kind of a little remark of, I'm going to the meeting tonight. Would you like to go? No. I don't know how many times I said no, but finally one night, and I don't even know why, I just said, all right. Like I was doing him some big favor, And I went to that meeting, and I remember walking in that door, and I thought, oh boy, here we go, a bunch of losers. My idea of an alcoholic, I had no idea when I walked in that room that I was going to see people that look like a grandmother. Millie was a little lady that she was the most sweetest woman. I could never imagine that she was an alcoholic. See, the ignorance of alcoholism. I don't know what alcoholism is. I think that there are people who are bad, and they do things that they make bad choices, and they just don't want to grow up. I had all kinds of these ideas of what an alcoholic was until I read the doctor's opinion, until I understood this thing about the mental obsession and the physical allergy, I could relate it to what I seen going on in my home. That explained to me why when we would go someplace and he says to me, you know, this was a little bit advanced into the alcoholism, and he said, I really don't want to embarrass you or myself tonight. So when you see that I'm having a few too many, when I'm getting to that edge, just say something and we'll go home. And I believe that. It's like, I don't know alcoholism. I don't know anything about it. So yeah, okay, we got a solution. We're on the same page here. And, you know, so sure enough, here we are. And I'm keeping my eye on him, just like that girl with the coffee. I got my eye on him. And all of a sudden I look at him and I can see that look in his eye, the sparkle, the gleam. You know, he's looking like he's starting to have a little fun. That's when you got to get them. You got to get them when you can't, because they like to have fun. Alcoholics love to have fun. And I'm telling you, I am a controller of that fun, okay? So, you know, I try to be discreet and I say, okay, I think you've had enough. And he looks at me and he says, excuse me? Either the party had not started yet, or else he was the party and we couldn't leave. So, you know, it's like, I just don't understand why this isn't working. And, you know, these people explained it to me when they shared their experience, strength, and hope in those meetings, those open AA meetings. And Millie would talk about, you know, alcoholism. And I couldn't believe that she was an alcoholic. And then there was this other guy. We worked out, I had a feedlot, and this one cattle, his name was Cattle Jack, and he would come into the office where I worked, and gosh, he was just the nicest guy. And I don't like people. I got to tell you, at that point, I didn't like anybody. I was just hateful. And don't get close to me. You could just see the flame up around me, and nobody got close to me. I was so angry. Again, what our opening said, anger because of alcoholism, the family disease. And this guy, for some reason, he would move past that, and he would come right up next to me, and he'd look in my eye, and he'd say, hey, how are you doing today? He was the most kindest man I had ever met. And there was something different about him. And lo and behold, when I walked into that meeting, guess who was there? A sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. He touched my life, and I didn't even know who he was. That's what we have an opportunity to do. We get to come here and we get to work this program, and we get to go out there and we get to be people who are happy, joyous, and free. And we get to be people who others like to be around. And we don't know. We don't know whose lives we're going to touch. But God gave us a great gift when He gave us this. And He gave us family recovery, reunited homes. And it does not mean that everybody is going to be able to save their marriage. It's like I said earlier, they did not let us work on our marriage. They told us we had to work our own program. And as it turned out, apparently what God's purpose was for us to be together. Because when He was working on his sobriety and I was working on my recovery, somehow in there we got to know each other again. Only this time it was on a different basis. And I began to respect this man that Alcoholics Anonymous was beginning to change. And we hung out together, and I'm going to tell you something, it was not easy. There were many, many times because I got the idea that when he wasn't, just because he wasn't drinking, it was all going to be, he should be different. He should be changed. Now, I'm not changed yet, but he should be. And I'm so thankful for his sponsor, because I would call her up and I'd say, do you know what he did? And then I would just proceed to just lay it out, and then I would even use a profanity and I would say those words I just wanted her to see how bad he really, really was. And she would just like she didn't even hear that. And then she says, well, okay, what about you? What's your part in this? It's like, ugh, what do you mean, my part? She always went back to, you have a part in it, Cindy. And I said, but I don't see that. She says, then you better get down on your knees and you better pray and ask God to show it to you until you can begin to see it, because you do have a part. And so I got to learn that I always am responsible for my feelings, not for what somebody else did, not for their behavior, but I'm responsible for my reactions to their behavior. And these are things that are serving me well. Because you see, it isn't just an alcoholic. I found out that I'm a type of person who, all around me, I treat people the same way. One time she had me do an assignment. She's great at assignments. And she had me do this assignment on how I treat God. And it's like, oh, well, I didn't like that one very well. But I prayerfully sat down and began to write. And so what I seen was, when I went back, I didn't go just right now, I went back to my relationship with God. And from as far back as I can remember, I tried to get God to do what I wanted him to do. Then I got angry with him because he didn't fulfill my wish list. Then I began to punish him by just not praying anymore. It's like, well, you know, I didn't have anything more to do with him because he didn't give me my way. And then later on, as I'm more in the program, I'm getting back in touch with God. And so I do the things I'm supposed to, you know, I pray regularly and I try to rebuild that relationship. But what happens is sometimes more important things get in the way. And it's like, okay, put God on a shelf for a while. And then I go, you know, I mean, as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, boy, I'm not the best person to have a relationship with. And then I look at the people around me. And what I seen is I don't have much gratitude. I don't make a person feel like I respect them and love them. I don't give them that feeling. I don't give it to God. I don't give it to the people around me. It's all connected. And so I begin to understand that, oh, you know, I don't treat people very well. And that, again, comes back. It comes back to me. The way I treat others is the way that I'm going to get back. You know, what you sow, you reap. And so these are just big insights for me, and they're just ongoing. I mean, I cannot say enough for sponsorship and the work that we do here in those steps. Later on, I had a baby. I wanted to express that before we got into AA. As I said, we did bring children into this family disease, but you know, I have to tell you, with her, I had no idea that she was going to bring such pain to me. She's a beautiful little girl. I thought she would solve all my problems, and they laid her in my arms, and I thought, this is it. This is heaven. This is love. Everything's going to be wonderful. And, I don't know, when she was about a year old, she's just so darn independent. And, you know, she just wouldn't mind again. Something about these people in my life, they just don't mind. And I just was so frustrated with her when it seemed like we were always butting heads. And lo and behold, years later down the road, 14 years old, and a series of events lead her into her first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you know what? You were there for her. And you did for her what I could not do. I was sharing with Andrea earlier, I just love her. I want to take her home. She's just the sweetest thing, you know. Alcoholism, the family disease. We were just talking about our relationships and how, you know, this affects us. And she said she'd gone to an Al-Anon meeting and had seen both sides of this disease by listening. And that's why I don't know how you recover in Al-Anon without going to open AA meetings. I don't know how you do it, because there's two sides to this. And anyway, my daughter was given a gift. She was given the gift of sobriety. There was a woman in Alcoholics Anonymous who was able to be her mother that I couldn't be. She was her sponsor, but I had to relinquish my parental rights, and I had to let AA take care of my daughter because I could not help my daughter with her alcoholism. And her sponsor did that very thing. Her sponsor turned her into the lady that I would have wanted her to be. Wow. Surrender. We give it to God. We admit our powerlessness, and we let God's purpose and will unfold. It's so simple, but not when you're dealing with alcoholism. And so we get to come here and we get to be together, and you have children that I can help your children. You can help my children. This family disease affects everybody. I don't believe that you can grow up and be around alcoholism and not be affected by it. And I know that there are people that say, oh, this one's normal, or that one's normal, and maybe, but not in my experience. I have a family. My son, the son that I had after my daughter, I don't know about him. I know he struggles. He's in a marriage, and I don't know, but I know we're here. And I know that if he ever needs us, or his wife, or his family, I know you're here to help him. And I also have a sobriety baby. We got into this program, and my husband, I didn't know you alcoholics did this. You just kind of say things, and then they're gone. I'm a planner. Like, you say something to me, and it's locked in, and I go and I make it happen. But alcoholics are always, their mouth's always running. They're always saying things, whatever. And he says one day, he said, I was a bad dad in my days of drinking, and wouldn't it be great if I could have another chance at that? And I said, verbally, no way. We've got a boy and a girl. I don't want any more kids. We're done. But then I got to thinking, and it's like, I shouldn't be so selfish and, okay, I'll do this for him. And then when I told him I was pregnant, which I don't know why, it happened so fast, I guess God had a plan. And he looked at me like I had two heads. And he says, what? What'd you do that for? I said, well, you said you wanted a second chance. He said, no, I didn't mean it. It was just a thought. Well, that thought today has been I don't know what words to put to him, but I can tell you one thing. I don't know if, he's ever going to end up here, if he needs to be here. I don't know, but I can tell you this. The last time I was with him, he used these words. He said, Mom, he said, Sam and I, Sam's his wife, Sam and I have decided that, I do okay when I drink. It's that whiskey. When I drink whiskey, I get really mean. So I just smiled, my Al-Anon smile. I said, oh, really? You've taught me to leave it alone. And, I just love my kids. I love my kids, and I love the relationships that we have today. And I can guarantee you, if it wasn't for this fellowship and this program, that they would not be in my life, because I am the type of person that I will run you out. And I want to be here. I love alcoholics. I love you, because you know what I've decided is there's a page in our One Day at a Time book that says if we could just go to the store and buy sense of humor. Because you guys, alcoholics, whichever you are, you love to have a good time. And when I'm with you, I have a good time. You make me laugh. You made me cry for years, or so to speak. And now I am laughing with you. So thank God for recovery. Thank God for the fact that it's a family disease, but we have a family solution. And thank you for letting me be here this morning.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308 or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. Shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.